Okay, so this screencast 13 will be the first one where you have to follow me and do an actual task. So you may want to pause this as we go along. I don't want to make the screencast too huge, so it's better if I just go through it and then you pause. So we'll need to make sure we're all set up in the same kind of starting point. So make sure you're at 100% zoom here, and if you don't have this little scale box in the top toolbar here, then just go right along to the right hand side where there's a little drop down. If you're using 2019 it might be a black arrow, but little drop down here, and these ticks here show all the things that are in this top bar here. So there's a layer scale which should be ticked. I like to keep it on. It might not be on by default. So click the layer scale and you should see a scale appearing here. We can have a discussion about scale another time, but let's just set the layer scale to 1:25, which is pretty standard for us to work at. There's arguments about working to 1:1 and 1:25. Both are okay. It really depends what you're doing. 1:25 for light and design and anything you want to narrate, but 1:1 depending on the size of the objects you're drawing. So we'll just do 1:25 here. Make sure all this is the same, scale text, and okay. Make sure the 0 point of your page is in the middle, so you can fit to page area here. Just making sure that's all set in the middle, so that should put 0 right back in the center. So we're going to do 3 objects. So I'm going to do let's call it a 500 diameter circle. I'm going to do a 500 by 500 square. That wasn't 500 by 500 obviously, so I'm just going to edit it here in the object info palette rather than redrawing it. And we're going to do a triangle, 3 sides, and 5. I want to make the edges 500, so I'm just going to draw that down from here. And I'm using smart points here. 500. Can hold down shift, and that's lined up. Use your smart points to make sure that everything's nicely lined up. Center of the circle is lined up with the center of the there. Okay, so these are set here. Let's make the circle red, let's make the square green, and the triangle yellow. The circle here, we're going to use this. The reason I'm setting all this up is for the move by points tool. So this tool here is really powerful. The first move by points tool in the first menu here creates a number of duplicates. So we're going to make 4 duplicates. I'll end up with 3. Sorry, we'll end up with 5. 4 duplicates end up with 5. This little button here should be switched on to retain the original object. So what I'm doing here, retain the original object and make 4 more to give us 5. That makes sense. And what we're drawing here is point to point. So I'm drawing the center to the center of the next one. If I draw the edge, I'll be drawing it to the edge of the next one. Hopefully that makes sense. If I click, and let's put them 1,000 apart. That's 100. Let's put them 1,000 apart. I can hit enter there and then enter again. So that gives me that point to that point was 1,000, and make 4 more. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, and kept the first one, object retention. That's the first option. Choose the square, go back to your move by points tool and choose the second option. Now this option here is the overall. So I've got 4 more, retaining the first one, and I'm going to say I want the last one, so this is the overall distance. If I hold down shift to lock it, I've placed 4 more. So I didn't define the space point to point, I defined the overall space and asked to put 4 more in. That could be really useful for lighting. Say I've got 6 lighting units, can you place them evenly along this bar please? That kind of thing. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was there's a tool called, a menu item called duplicate command. So if I click duplicate, it will duplicate the highlighted object. Now, if I line that up with reference to previous object, that doesn't look quite right. Sometimes it's easier pulling it away than bringing it back in again. Just making a mess of this. 1, 2. There. It's quite tricky. If I duplicate again and again and again, then it remembers the relationship between the first time you duplicate. As long as you don't move anything, it will continue to duplicate things. The last option I want to show you here was what's it called, the reference point mode. So say I want to move the top of this triangle a certain distance away from that. So we'll just forget all these just now, and we'll even forget that. So all I want to do is I've got an object and I want to make it a certain distance from that. So if I select an object, the selected object will always be the one that moves. Move by points mode, move by points tool, sorry. Then I click. Now I'm going to click the object and then the reference point, and it tells me it's 330. Say I want to make it 500 away. And this is the one you need to be careful, you need to pay attention to. Interpret the first click as. Now, most of the time Vectorworks guesses this right, but in this occasion it didn't. The first click, I clicked there, then there, so the first click was the object, the thing that's going to move. And then I'll move it away. So, likewise, I could click triangles selected again. I could have clicked there, and say make it 300 apart. And this time the first click was the reference point. This is still the object, this is still the thing that's moving, and the reference is the distance from there to what. So I had to change that again, so Vectorworks hasn't made a particularly good guess on this occasion of guessing correctly. So have a play. So that tool there has 3 really powerful functions inside it. So have a little play with that, and I'll see you on the next tutorial, which I'll give you a task.